this that Claire was just outlining there comes as Western governments tighten really controls around TikTok. The US and the EU are the latest countries to impose some kind of ban on the app. We've had a similar thing in Canada. And they're barring it from being on government devices, saying it's a security concern. You're seeing the whole list of countries there. The TikTok CEO is set to appear before US Congress later this month. It comes as House Republicans, as Claire and I were discussing, trying to advance a bill that could allow President Biden to ban the app entirely. Michael Centones is president of the cybersecurity firm CrowdStrike. He joins me now from California. Michael, great to have you on the show. We'll talk about your report on global threats in just a moment. But first, I want to get your reaction, if I could, to what Claire and I were just discussing there, to TikTok. Governments asking their employees to delete the app from the device. In your view, Michael, is TikTok a security threat?
Well, I think it's fair to say that anytime you're doing business with a company that's under substantial influence of a foreign adversary, whether that's China, Russia, it's North Korea, you need to consider the security risk to government, the security risk to corporations and general citizens. So we know, obviously, in this case here, China has been carrying out attacks for many years. And some of those attacks, what we saw in our report, China Nexus adversaries were the most active in 2022. They've targeted all global industries, all sectors, all around the world. So it's something that is fair for people to have a legitimate concern over.
So for parents out there who are listening to this, or indeed users of TikTok, what should they be doing? Should they be just, putting a pause on it? Should they be deleting it? Because as Claire was suggesting there, their fears over the data that is being collected and what is being done here. So is it a risk, in your opinion?
Well, I certainly don't use it. My recommendation would be to people to think carefully about what they put on there, whether they need to use it at all. Obviously, I understand that's a little bit harder when you may have kids that want to use it. Yeah. Certainly, from a business perspective, any government, there's no need for this. So that's how I would be approaching it.
And you heard Claire and I discussing there, the House Republicans, having advanced legislation here that would make it easy to ban TikTok from the US. Should it be banned? Do you think we'll get to that point where it will be banned, or what would be the repercussions here, you think?
Well, look, I think it's certainly a challenging situation, and I don't think the government is going to take that decision lightly. There's obviously going to be a lot of fallout to make a decision like that. But as I said, if you are working with any company that can be under substantial influence, there is a risk there, and that risk has to be carefully considered and a decision made accordingly.
Let's talk about the global threats. I mean, from your report, you've seen. We've seen Chinese espionage being a surging in part of your report. You're looking at some of the highlights. China Nexus espionage surge, cyber impact of Ukraine war overhyped, the biggest increase in new adversaries, increase in data theft and extortion. Just talk to us, first of all. Let's start with China and the war in Ukraine. Just how exactly has this evolved?
Well, we've seen this trend for quite some time. And in our global threat report, what we saw was China-linked adversaries were incredibly active in 2022. They targeted 39 global industry sectors, 20 geo regions, and we think that trend will continue throughout 2023. So every organization must remain vigilant against cyber threat, not only from China, but from any country. Russia was obviously a little bit different. One of the things that we saw with Russia and groups linked to Russia before the kinetic aspect of the Russia-Ukraine war, we saw cyber activity really scale up very, very quickly. And it's something that we've seen throughout the course of 2022. We expect that will continue throughout 2023. And we'll see a lot of these tactics employed during the year.
And are these tactics, Michael, are they smarter? Are they more sophisticated here?
Well, one of the interesting things for 2022, we saw a huge increase in targeted scope and relentless determination by a lot of these adversaries, especially adversaries that are financially motivated. And what's interesting about that is we saw ability adapt, we saw splinter groups, we saw groups that had been shut down by law enforcement regroup and flourish very, very quickly. So certainly the skill level is very high, the motivation is very high, and unfortunately adversaries today are making so much money. Adversaries are carrying out attacks and they're doing it successfully. So this is something that is a big wake-up call. People need to be aware and they need to be protecting themselves.
On that point, I mean, a big wake-up call. Are you seeing more companies, more businesses kind of hardening their security posture, given exactly what you've just outlined, Michael?
Well, the sad reality is we see so many examples in the US and around the world where organizations continually are getting breached, they're continually getting hit. One issue remains with the sheer number of Microsoft vulnerabilities, and there's systemic risk every month. Organizations around the world are patching relentlessly because adversaries are finding gaps in Microsoft. The other thing, as I said, that experience of the attackers, their capability continues to increase. If you're turning up as an organization using legacy, old data technology, you're not going to stand a chance. And that's the reality of what we're looking at here.
Michael Centones, really fascinating discussion. Really appreciate you coming on the show. Thanks, Michael.